Wow, what an intro. What's up, everybody? We are live. Can we cut that out? We got to cut that out. No, it's a live stream. Can't do it. Holy crap, Lester. I'm just pumped.
You're
I've just
pumped. That's
got
what it
all
is.
this.
You're fired
Yeah,
up.
I've got probably too much caffeine, but I've got just a lot of like adrenaline. Like I'm ready to hit somebody.
Bears are winning, man. 2 in a row. They look good. Everything's improving. The defense is consistent. I mean, is this a good team now? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I'm getting older, but I do feel like I got one hit left in me.
Huh.
It might take me out, but like I feel like I got one. I got one left in me. Not like a professional. I would never be able to
Okay.
tackle a professional. I'm just saying, like one hit, like someone's like someone steals a purse, right? And you see it happen. Like, could you tackle him? I
Yeah,
feel
I
like I
think
got that hit left in me,
the adrenaline would pop up.
Yeah, I think I got it. I think I got it in me. That's all I'm saying. It's like sometimes I get pumped up. I'm like, I got that one hit left in me. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I went back and rewatched the game, and I think I shared this with you, but my takeaway was this was just an absolute total domination.
Yeah.
Like there were, we'll get into it in the show, but I mean, we're gonna have to pick some nits
Yeah.
on Cold Bowl. Like this was pretty much a dominating effort. And like if you as the Bears, you host a team like the Panthers, they don't really have a lot going for them, and you scrape by, and it's what you talked about 16-13, right? It's a very different feeling. You're like, oh, it's a win, it's a win. It's the league, they're hard to come by. You take it, you move on, you start to see if you can get improvement. This was an ass kicking.
You want to beat if you're going to be a good team, you have to beat teams you're supposed to beat. And a team like the Panthers, you should blow out, because that is a pretty bad team. And the one thing I will say surprised me is the Panthers have a pretty good offensive line. They put some money into that unit, and the Bears got some pressure all day. I mean, yeah, the Panthers had some success running, but once you take out the running game because your offense is scoring so much and you're forcing Andy Dalton to pass, you can get after them, and they could not stop them. That like 10 pressure. I think I saw the PFF number there. So that was that was a good overall defensive performance by the Bears.
They've been so consistent in pressuring the quarterback. They had 3 sacks against Levis, 3 against Stroud, only 1 against Richardson, 3 against Stafford, and then 4 against Dalton / Bryce Young. So like they're averaging just under 3 a game. That's pretty good. Like you average 3 a game over 17. That's 51. Like that's pretty good. Like that 50 sack season is a really good outcome, particularly for a unit that we were pretty nervous about, and a coach that doesn't really like to blitz.
Yeah.
So this is pretty impressive, and it's not just one guy, right? This isn't just Robert Quinn having a record-setting year. This is everybody's really pitching it. Pretty cool.
I mean, they have one guy kind of driving it with Dexter, I think, but yeah, like you said, I mean, Sweat's getting after it. Taylor, I thought Taylor was fantastic.
Taylor was this close to a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Booker got his first sack.
Booker got a sack right at the end there on Bryce Young. That was fun.
Nice.
Yep. Got a little effort sack. Got a lot like the Darrell Taylor sacks from week 1. Yeah, I was excited for that, but let's not ruin everything. Let's get into this. Let's get this excitement level into the podcast, and let's get going here. I'll switch my banner here. Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Berkus. On the other side of the screen here is Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, the Chicago Bears just totally dominated another professional football team. How'd you take the game?
That was a fun one. I mean, you want to see your team. I mean, this is year 3 of the rebuild, right? So you should be beating teams that. What are the Panthers, right? I mean, like they're in the first year of a regime. They've already given up on their quarterback from a year ago. They're playing a journeyman, Andy Dalton. What's the point of that? Like what is the direction of the Panthers? That's a rudderless organization over there.
That's a smoldering hole.
Yes.
Right. I mean, like they're just nothing really good. I mean, they traded Brian Burns in the offseason, right? I mean, like, Derek Brown's hurt. They had some linebackers out. Their offensive line, they did put some money into that to try to help support Bryce Young. And they have some young wide receivers that seem to not want to make any plays. But otherwise, like this was not a good football team. And like we talked about in the pregame, we talked about even before we hit live here, if this score was a very close score and they scraped by, we would be having a very different
Yeah.
conversation. We would still be happy because it was a win for the Chicago Bears and all that kind of stuff. This was a dominant effort, unlike a lot. We have not seen this, and every phase. Well, maybe not every phase, but offense and defense really complete games there. Not a lot of nits to pick, but we'll get into that a little bit because we're balanced. So even when they're flying high, we have to at least mention a couple things. But why don't we just kick it off? Actually, before we get into Trench tribute, I wanted to relay a phrase that I heard the announcers say, and I wanted to get your reaction to it. Quick strike offense. What does that mean? I have never heard that as a Chicago Bears fan. Quick strike offense. Can you translate to those of us who have been cheering for the Bears our whole lives of what that means?
Yeah, I think Bears, we're used to what, like 3 yards in a cloud of dust. We're used to grind it out. We're not used to anything quick strike. And that was fun, right? I mean, watching Caleb get up there, get to his play, quick, have time to kind of diagnose what you want to do pre-snap. And then, the quick game was working. He was going through his progressions. And I'm sure we'll talk a lot about Caleb and Caleb's corner here in a little while. But man, that's fun. That game, the rewatch was exciting because I knew it was going to be fun, obviously, because of the win. But then kind of seeing more some of the stuff I missed, appreciating more of the stuff that Caleb did 5 games into his career. Oh my God. Come on, let's go.
That's awesome. Well, we'll get into more Caleb stuff. So, but we always start in the trenches, trench tribute. I mean, pretty great effort from both sides of the football. I think you could go a lot of different places here. I'm very curious to see where you went. Start us off.
Since I'm going to kick it off, I'm going to go to the unexpected. Bill
Yep.
Murray. He came in. I mean, everyone's like, why are they playing Bill Murray over Nate Davis? Finally, the coaching staff said, you know what? Let's just go with a guy here for Tev. We'll put him at left guard. We'll let Pryor stay over there where he's been playing. Good. Stop messing with everything if one guy goes down. And Bill Murray's a football player. I mean, he looked pretty good. I mean, I was not expecting much. As soon as he came in, I wanted to watch him, right? So first pass rep, did his job. There's a clip floating around social media where he blocked like 3 guys on a crazy scramble. Effort, energy, he was solid at the point of attack. Now look, the Panthers are pretty bad. So let's see if he gets another opportunity at some point, if he does this again. But as a depth piece, how do you not go with Bill Murray here? That was a good game by him.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could say left guard because Tevin was having a pretty good game before he went down, and then
Yeah,
Bill Murray comes in. Bill Murray, the guy that we were advocating to come in at fullback, which has
right.
been taken up by Doug Kramer, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure. But here's Bill Murray coming in, and not only does he hold his own, he looks pretty good, and maybe even arguably better in pass pro than the guy that he replaced. He had some pretty good reps. And so overall, Bill Murray absolutely deserves the Trench tribute. I did want to say we beat up on Coleman Shelton quite a bit. He had a really great effort play on
Yeah,
that big DeAndre Swift explosive play. He was downfield. He stalked a guy, got a block that probably sprung Swift for an extra 10, 15 yards as a center. 30 yards downfield or whatever it was. That's pretty impressive. We got to give some flowers to Coleman Shelton there too.
if we're talking Coleman Shelton, though, we got to talk about the soundbite, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man,
Do it.
I mean,
Go.
that was incredible. I mean, I picked it right away. It's good that he's into the game, right? I mean, he's helping. Obviously, Caleb's making the line calls, but as a center, that's also your responsibility. He wanted to let Caleb know there's a effing fire. The blitz was was coming, and I just thought that was pretty good. She's seeing how they interacted there, and I know Caleb just calmly. I know, he just goes up to the line and calls the play and runs the play.
So essentially, the way that I understood that was that he was trying to say, like, "Hey, you're calling a play that's going to fail.
Yeah.
So whatever you think you're doing is not a good idea because you're going to run right into this blitz. So please don't do that." And Caleb's like, "I got you, bro. Like, I'm not actually running. I'm throwing out. I'm reading hot here, and I'm going to throw the ball." So I think there was a little bit of like, fire of the moment,
Yeah.
but that's how I interpreted that. But I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah, that was
I'm
good stuff.
surprised that it's not on a T-shirt yet. You know,
Oh yeah, yeah. Somebody's got to.
that seems like some that Chicago-based obvious shirts would be all over right there.
Yeah, we got to talk to those guys.
We do, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we got to talk to them because they're trying to coin the wrong nickname for our guy Torrey Taylor, but we'll get into that at some point. All right, hey, let's move on to our Twitter segment of the week, sweet tweets. We're gonna start off with yours. What do you got this week?
So last week we kind of talked about the DJ Moore sitting alone on the bench. Someone shared a clip and it went viral, right? Because it's all over the place. And oh my God, DJ Moore's pouting. And then of course this week it came up again how he's unhappy. There were a lot of questions about it. So Sylvie, of course, at Waddle and Sylvie, he tweets out a picture of DJ after his touchdown. There he is sitting alone on the bench. And he's like, guys, this is DJ Moore after scoring a touchdown. This is what he does. Stop the bad body language stuff. He's one of the Bears' hardest workers, best players, and a good teammate. Some guys just like to sit alone. And that's exactly what's going on there. That's just who he is. I mean, he's never been not engaged in the game. He's never been like the diva things thrown on. He's not that guy. He's a good teammate because he's not smiling and jolly when they're not doing great. People want to all of a sudden assume, oh, it's body language. Bears fans should be over the whole body language thing since the Jay Cutler era. That is, it's just stop it. If you're a Bears fan that is looking at a body language or a facial expression and you're coming to conclusions, go cheer for another team because you're a moron.
Yeah, I think we had enough body language talk in the Cutler era. I don't think that we need to go back on that. I think that when we talked about it, I think we were referring to a little bit of the, an errant throw and kind of the like, you could see the disgust on his face and kind of hopping up in a way that was, showing up your quarterback a little bit, probably not to the extremes that a lot of people think of with the diva wide receiver label, but you're starting to go down a path where you were kind of like, what's up with DJ, man? The sit on the sideline saying, I didn't pick up on that as being like that big of a deal because I don't, like you say, some guys just that's what they do.
Yeah.
And there was a clip going around. I think the Bears put it out, and because Caleb was mic'd up, so we're going to get a lot out of that. And it was, I think, on that first touchdown pass, and Caleb's cheering. He's cheering with all his teammates, and then he comes over to DJ on the bench and daps him up and then goes over to the rest of the guy. Like, that's just what it is. So if that's what he has to do to remain focused, I think that's fine. No big deal. So he's happier though, because that was a good game. Two touchdowns, 3 explosive plays total. That's fantastic. So I wanted to pull this one. This is from at Front Office NFL. Some guy named Tony Holzman.
Oh, I saw this tweet. Yes.
Yeah. So what he did was he took Caleb Williams' stats. This will lead us into Caleb's corner here, but he took Caleb's stats from the first 10 quarters, so 2.5 games, and from the last 10 quarters, last 2.5 games. And let me just read those out and see if you see any difference here. So first 10 quarters, 57% completion percentage, 5.2 yards per attempt, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions for a 57.6 quarterback rating. Last 10 quarters, 70% completion percentage, 7.9 yards per attempt, 5 touchdowns to only 1 interception, and a 109 quarterback rating.
It's almost like those small sample sizes that some of these guys were pushing, and this stupid did the Bears draft the wrong guy? That whole narrative, it's almost like, look, it's a few games into his career. Let's give us some more time here, and here he is now. The last few games, he's looked pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, I can't emphasize enough how much it bothers me as someone who is taken more statistics than I care to admit.
Yeah.
That people that are out there and proclaim themselves as statistics people and contribute to that analytics community acted like that. They should know better. And honestly, we still shouldn't be drawing any conclusions from 5 games. Like, this is the rookie year of a quarterback. Like, there is a lot of learning to be done by those individuals and by us to track their progress. So this is incredible progress. Yes, the defenses have been different in quality, but I will say I watched Josh Allen play the Texans defense yesterday. Do you know who had a pretty bad game yesterday? Josh Allen, 9
Yeah.
of 30. He looked befuddled, and this is the guy that anybody that really watches the whole league, they'll say, well, Mahomes is the best quarterback. Josh Allen is number 2.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people that are very credible that will say anything other than that, and he looked lost against that team. Caleb Williams played the Texans in week 2. Like, yeah, he didn't look great. That's also a really good defense. That team's going to compete for AFC Championship game. Like, that's where that team's at. So you got to put that stuff into context too. But let's lead into Caleb's corner here. Caleb Williams, 20 of 29 for 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He added 5 carries for 34 yards. Unfortunately, a 6th carry was called back for a clip. Otherwise, that would have been a touchdown run at the goal line. He was only sacked 1 time for an
Yes.
8-yard loss. So your work on Sack Watch will be light this week, but I think there are a couple of really fun numbers there. One is the 304 yards. That is his second 300-yard game of his young career, second this season, obviously, which puts him halfway to tying the franchise single season mark of 4, which is shared by 4 individuals, Mitchell Trubisky being the latest, Brian Hoyer before him, Jay Cutler before him, and Billy Wade way before him, before my time, is when that happened. But good
That
for
was
Billy
before
Wade.
my time too. Yeah.
Billy Wade's still in the record book, right?
That's
That's
wow.
pretty fun. Good for
Yeah.
Billy Wade. Uh, Billy Wade not with us any longer, but that's fun that his name is still there. And I think the 2 interception, sorry, the 2 touchdowns is fine, but the 0 interceptions, that is an incredibly nice number. And of course, no fumbles either. And then the 1 sack. That's the offensive line and Caleb's best number there as well. So overall, easily his best game as a professional. What sticks out to you the most?
The numbers are nice. You like seeing the stats, obviously. His pocket presence this game, there were some plays where I don't know how he escaped. He just kind of, it looked like he was in the grasp and he kind of just wiggled out of there. He's very elusive. That's something from his game that, a lot of scouts said, hey, this is really something you don't think about, but he has that in him. And he's not scrambling to run all the time. He's scrambling to make plays. And we saw him do that. We saw a few times he kind of scrambled out of a sack and he just kind of chucked the ball out of bounds because there's nothing there. But, his ability to do that is great. His ability, we've talked about it this whole season. He's got the keys to the offense. He is running the show up there, especially this game. They had a lot of no huddle stuff where I'm sure, Shane Waldron's in his ear, obviously giving him some options. He gets to the line, he checks the defense, he checks into the play he wants to run. That's Caleb, but it's also what he's been coached up. They're doing a lot of different things. They have check with me's at the line. He's able to do this all as a rookie. When's the last time we saw a Bears quarterback orchestrate the offense in this manner like this? Cutler, maybe?
It was probably Cutler, but not even to that extent.
I don't think he did it to this extent.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And, it's, I don't know that I can, I think we give our buddy Quentin Christo credit for talking about how it seems like Caleb is taking the master's level course here. Like he's starting off not taking a 101. They're throwing everything at him. They threw him in the deep end and he's improving every week. And I think that's really going to be in the long run more impressive. This team gets into November, December, where those games start to get tougher against tougher opponents. He's not going to be hitting a ceiling and limited because he's going to have all of these things that are at his disposal. So from a big picture perspective, this was, I think, really smart, and not to try to limit him and be like, okay, we're just going to kind of put you into this box and this is what we're going to give you. It's like, nope. Hey man, you're the man. We'll give it all to you. We'll give you the keys.
You talk about that Texan game. He was blitzed a ton. and that blitz really affected him. Did you see his numbers against the blitz the last couple of games?
It's like 20 for 22 or something like that.
Oh my God. If he's already diagnosing the blitzes, he's understanding when to get rid of the ball quickly. We talk about that quick game. There it is. The blitz is coming. He knows there's some guys are his responsibility. The line can't pick up everyone. Sometimes he knows a free rusher is coming. The ball's coming out quick. It's ridiculous to see a quarterback. I mean, I'm not sure who can do that research, but I can't imagine a quarterback in any recent Bears memory that had that kind of success against the blitz.
No, it's certainly not Bears history, but Duke Manyweather, who's a OL masterminds guy. He's a pretty active on offense. I mean, he's definitely very active on offensive line,
Yeah.
Twitter, and you learn a lot from him. But he had a tweet, and I can't remember what he was responding to. It was basically like, yeah, hey, you might not want to hear this, but it takes sometimes 6 to 10 weeks for an offensive line to really gel and understand each other and figure some things out. And someone said, well, no offense, but what's the preseason and practice for? And it's like, it's not the same.
No.
It is not the same until you actually get into games and start to really understand each other. And it's really important to have continuity of good, solid players year to year. We've had this philosophical conversation before. Like, would you rather have, one all pro and four, and maybe two guys that are okay and two guys that are replacement level or below? Or would you rather have like just five guys that can play? Right? None of them are ever going to make an all pro. They're just five guys that can play. I'll take the five guys that can play.
Yeah.
And they're gonna get better as they work together. And I think that there's been some shuffling and there's been some figuring out. But if you get those five guys on the field together, maybe that continues to be Coleman Shelton. Maybe that's Ryan Bates when Ryan Bates comes back. But you get those five guys together and playing with each other, continuously, you're going to see improvement. And I think part of that, yes, is going against the Panthers, but part of that I think is just time on task and learning how to communicate better and figuring out, the strengths and weaknesses of the guy next to you. And I think we're starting to see a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, that's the key there. You talk about the time on task. I mean, you can have five guys that are just average run of the mill linemen, but you play with them week in, week out. You start understanding, okay, when the defender feels this way on our double team, I know that you got him. You know what I mean? I know when I can leave and go to the next level because we've done it so many times. And that's something that you can't really do and you can't really know until, like you said, get into live games because it's a different feel. The guys are going out 100% in a regular season game. Preseason, somewhat. Practice, never. I mean, that just doesn't happen. So you got to get those live reps. It takes time to gel, and hopefully this offensive line can gel.
I don't remember the play last year, but there was something that happened last year where we were talking about someone was ripping maybe it was Cody Whitehair or something, and basically the defensive tackle looked like he had kind of slipped the double team, beat the double team, and had a TFL. And it was like, well, God, we can't even have two guys block this guy. And it's like, he left early. He thought the center had him. It might have been even 2 years ago, but he's like, he thought the center had him. He clearly didn't. They haven't really played next to each other, and then you'll see that improve. Right. And so that was a lot of my argument with some of the guard play next to Mustafa over the years was that these guys were really hanging on their blocks really long because they needed to make sure that first guy was blocked before they peeled off. And by the time they peeled off, they may have missed the linebacker. And so again, these things just need time to figure out. And then your offensive coordinator knows what may or may not work based on the blocking scheme. So a lot of this just needs a little time. That's why we've been talking this whole last month. Like it feels like it's getting close. You finally saw it with Caleb's numbers there, really reflective too. But let's move on to some stats. I've got a good one, a fun one. There's a lot of fun stats from this, but what did you have?
My number this week is 21, and
Okay.
that is 21 points. So the Bears, for 11 straight games, the Bears have held their opponents to 21 points or less, which is the longest streak in the NFL. Where is this defense? I mean, it's a top 10 defense by DVOA, by a lot of the analytics. The takeaways are there. They're doing a good job with the sacks we talked about at the top of the show. I mean, top 10. I mean, can they push to be top 5 defense by the end of the season?
Well, I mean, with this defensive line being as surprising as they have been in the early going, and we know that the secondary is really talented and they're showing some ball skills early on. I mean, Jaquan Brisker is having a really good season so far. No one's challenging Jalen Johnson, and when they do, they regret it. Tyreek Stevenson had a couple more pass breakups this week, right? He's the beneficiary of some of those targets. Byard had an excellent interception. That
Yeah.
was an excellent ball tracking. I mean, the receiver lost the ball, and so on replay, I'm like, oh man, you could totally see them just throwing a flag on Byard for some reason because the receiver like ran through Byard,
Yeah.
but it didn't impact. He still caught the ball. He was basically the receiver at that point. And so yeah, if you keep taking the ball away, well, turnovers are fickle and they're yeah, that's true. But like, why did Lovie Smith's teams consistently always rank at the top when this is the same defense, right? That's the thing that they're doing. That's the thing that they're looking for is, you know, hey, first guy wrap them up, second guy pop it out, and even the first guy popping it out, right? That happened this week too. Hey, you got an opportunity to make a play on a ball, do it. Uh, you know, take the ball away however you can. They're on track. I thought it was ridiculous. They said they wanted 2020. They
Yeah.
wanted 20 interceptions and 20 fumble recoveries. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll track it. Like that seems insane to me, but like whatever. And it's like, oh, they're kind of on track for that.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. That would be an insane season if they can keep that up. And they're on track for 50-ish sacks. That's a really good year. And so yes, by all measures, this is a good defense. And if they continue to play like this, why wouldn't they be a top 5 unit?
You talk about the turnovers. You can't, they're not consistent year to year. And I remember doing some research back when was it 2018 when Vic Fangio's defense was so good for the Bears, and people like, oh, that's not going to continue. I'm like, well, why can't it? So I went back and you talk about Lovey because as Bears fans, that era is a good era. It's a fun era for Bears fans. Peanut Tillman, Urlacher, Briggs, those guys were all. That's the Lovey Smith motto. The Flus has hits philosophy. That has its origins in Lovey Smith. Take away the ball. That's all they preach. So, like you said, Lovey's years, every year they're among the league leaders in turnovers because it was a mentality. It was preached. It was something that was talked about every single day. Punching at the ball, pulling at the ball. That's something they wanted to have happen. Plus, the defense kind of lends itself to that a little bit. Even back then and even today, because it's zone based. Keep it in front of you. Make plays on the ball. So it's the same basic principles. Why can't this keep it up? So I think this is a good chance to be top 5 unit. A couple guys step up. If Austin Booker comes around as the year goes on, we already talked about Turner, just outstanding off the edge. We haven't really seen Sweat really have a huge game yet. And, that's in him there too. So, Dexter's coming around. Billings has been playing good. So it's a pretty damn good defense.
It's good to see Billings get a sack.
Yes.
Like to see that. So speaking of, I'm tracking this stat. Obviously, Lester, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. Toxic differential plus. It's kind of my personal innovation on the Brian Billick stat. Those of you that have been following me on Twitter or following me on the website have seen this article. Basically, trying to track toxic differential, which is traditionally the explosive plays and turnovers, and then I also added in sacks. So the differential for explosive plays in this game was 6-3 in favor of the Bears. That's the 6 is the most that they've had. They only had 9 coming in, so that was really great to see that they got 6 on their own in this game. The sacks, they recorded 4 and only gave up 1. And then the turnovers 3-0. So you add that up for the toxic differential plus, which turnovers are worth double. It's a plus 12, which is just an absolutely dominant performance, which reflects the score. And so it really kind of reinforces just how dominant of a performance this was. But it also took their season total toxic differential plus from -6 to +6. So this is just a huge game in terms of like taking care of business in all facets of what I think is important in terms of scrimmage plays. So the offense and the defense, defensive plays that of what I think are important. They just took care of it. They just
Yeah.
took care of business.
Yeah, I love that analytic you're tracking there. The Bears were a 2-2 team going in, so their negative, toxic differential plus kind of made sense. But now they're a winning team, and you look at by the time when the week's over, most of those teams that are getting wins that are over 500, they make big plays. I mean that's a big part of the formula is make big plays and stop big plays from your opponent. Take the ball away. Be safe with the ball on offense. So that's something it's definitely been fun to track this year.
Yeah, it's fun to track, and then it's fun to track on a season total. And I think as we move along with more games, you'll start to see that kind of separate from the good teams are going to continue to flow up to the top, and the bad teams are going to sink to the bottom. Because individual games, I had no idea. Like this is the first time, obviously, we just created it. I certainly
Yeah.
didn't go backwards and go individual game wise, but the record, if you have a toxic differential plus, once you do that calculation of +2 or greater, like the record is kind of insane so far this year. It's like 34-5 or so. I can't remember what I said in the article, but it's a really positive play and a positive stat. And I think that what I like about the stat, sure, I guess I'm kind of doing a little sales pitch on this stat. What I really, really like about it is one, it's replicable, it's public information, which for me is really important as a stats guy. But I think it's the most football guy stuff that anybody talks about, right? Like we got to get after the quarterback, we got to take the ball away, we got to get chunk yardage, and then we got to limit all those things on the other side of it. And it's just all of those things kind of taken into one and be like, well, how you doing as a team on all three of those factors, right? And so I think even the people that are anti stats can really appreciate it, be like, oh yeah, like I get all those things are important. Boiling it down to one number is kind of interesting and fun. And then when you look at the results per game and then per season, and you see these good teams kind of flow to the top, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, there might be something here. So I'm really excited about it. It's probably the thing I'm most excited about in terms of tracking and writing this year. It's just been really fun. So check that out if you haven't yet. But let's flow into a break. But before we do, let's talk about our sponsor. Lester, you got a little read for us on our friends over at Underdog Fantasy.
Yeah, Underdog. It's our new sponsor this year, and it's the greatest time of year again because football is back. It is here to stay until February. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. Signing up with Underdog is quick and easy, and because I like to keep things simple, I especially like using their mobile app. This week, Jaguars in London. Those London games are kind of always tricky, but I don't know if you looked at the stats. The Jaguars have a horrible defense. Teams are passing all over them. So, like I've been riding with Caleb the last few weeks. I'm riding with Caleb again. I'm going to check what the numbers are. I'm going over on Caleb because the Jags can't stop anybody in through the air. So another big game here for Caleb coming up. Book it. Making picks at Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head over to the Underdog simple to use mobile app or underdogfantasy.com. Sign up with our promo code CITY, that's CITY, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code CITY to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Now the disclaimers: must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus Colorado, and for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. If you're in Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369.
Nice. Quick break. On the other side of it, we'll get to everybody's favorite category, the Three Bears. Stick with us. All right, Lester, the Three Bears. I have no idea how we are either going to source more hot bowls of porridge to give everybody one that deserves one, or we're going to narrow it down and choose from this group. So I'm going to let you have first choice, which is super easy this week because you can go any direction.
There are a lot of ways to go. I'm trying to. I was going through my list. I'm like, well, let's try and save this for maybe just right, or I'll save this for something else. But I don't know. I keep coming back to Caleb Williams. Just the way he did what he did. On the rewatch, like I said, it's just the way he escaped some of those sacks, the way he bought time in the pocket with his eyes downfield. I think there were at least 2 plays that got called back from a silly penalty. Just keeping plays alive with his feet. Eyes always up. We wanted to see this for years. It's just we haven't seen it. He's doing what he has to do at the line of scrimmage. So much no huddle this week. And that was part of the game plan because the Panthers had some injuries, right, in the linebacker unit. So they wanted to keep the Panthers on the field, go no huddle, let Caleb move him around. He did stuff with his eyes. The touchdown pass to DJ Moore was fantastic. He just set that up beautifully. He'd have one-on-one on the backside. I just got to get the safety out of the way. Quick little glance. There's my hole. He hit Cole Kmet on a nice shot down the sideline. He was just playing at another level this week, a level that a guy in his 5th pro start should not be at.
Yeah, I like it. That's a good pick. I think for me, again, you could go in a lot of different directions. I don't know that there's a wrong answer here. I did want to shout out the Doug Kramer package because this goal line package. It is working.
Yeah.
And yes, he's the one that got the clip, I think, right?
He did.
So okay, like a little demerit there, but overall, him coming in and them just bodying people has been really effective. And again, we called for one of those backup offensive linemen to be put in there. He obviously he's apparently a good pick. Like I wonder if I wonder if Coleman Shelton could do that sort of thing too. Obviously, he's a center right now, but like you wonder if like center, because they're maybe a little smaller, maybe they've got the feet like they can kind of track, because that fullback thing is a little different. It's not just barrel ahead. This isn't refrigerator Perry time. Like you do have to like track and set up your block. And so I gotta give him credit. Like he's pretty good at it. I don't love his reps at center, but I do like what I'm seeing when he's in there at fullback filling in for Kari Blasingame. So I just want to give a little shout out to one, Waldron, for using the Kramer in that way and being creative, and 2, like coming back to it and being like, stop this. We're going to keep running it until somebody stops it. Right. And then my award, my bowl of porridge goes to Big Dex. And I think I didn't want to use the trench tribute. I needed to do offensive line on this, on the trench tribute this episode, but I've been a little hard on him, right? Because not hard on him, but I've been withholding my praise a little bit because I'm a little worried about the run reps, and that'll still be there. Maybe that'll come along, but he was credited with 2 half sacks. So he shared a sack with DeMarcus Walker, and he shared a sack with Kyler Gordon, right? So he adds, and I'm being very specific because it really irritated me today that there's some people that were running with a PFF stat that said he was given credit for 2 sacks, and they just sort of like didn't back off it. They didn't take it off Twitter. They didn't correct themselves. They just went with it. It's really irritating me. Half sacks exist. PFF doesn't track it that way. So Lester's laughing at me because I'm making sure to say that it was credited with 2 half sacks, but it's very important. So he's now up to 4 on the year, which is incredible for a second-year interior disruptor. He's on a great trajectory there. But what and this is this is maybe me being a little football guy-ish here. I really want to praise the fact that he got the fumble recovery, and he almost had the other fumble recovery.
Yeah.
He is hustling. Those plays were made away from him. So he's turning around and he's hustling after the ball. And so he is being Johnny on the spot, getting one of those fumble recoveries. And he was right there for the second one. That to me, like, I was like, Dexter gets it. Like he gets it. So I don't know, man. What did that pop out to you too?
He has been hustling all season. And we talked about earlier that this is the hits philosophy. I mean, if you're always hustling, you're always running to the ball, good things happen. And with Dexter, it's not just this week. I mean, this is who he's been as a pro. And I was thinking about this earlier today. So he did not have this kind of production in college, obviously. It was a different style he was playing there. But they had so many good athletic traits. size, strength, speed, quickness. His combine numbers are fantastic. A lot of times that doesn't translate, but Ryan Poles and his coaching staff said, look, this is a guy that fits what we want from an athlete standpoint. He wasn't running the right scheme in college, but he is going to be a fit for us, right? He has been. He's still learning on the job. He had his lock screen goals that he shared in the preseason. He's halfway to his sack goal already, and it's 5 games into the season. So, yeah, I mean, he's. I didn't think he'd be pushing for a Pro Bowl berth as a second-year player, but he keeps this up. How do you keep him out of the Pro Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, and we've talked so many different ways about who needed to step up on this defensive line if this Bears defense was going to take that step into that top 5 unit that we just talked about. And that's where you always come back to. Well, it's got to be Dexter. It's got to be Dexter that does that because he plays that important 3 technique, or he's an interior disruptor. You got to have Billings hold on and replicate what he was able to do. Like there's a lot of those, like, yes, all these things need to happen, but it always starts with Dexter, and he's doing that so far. So a lot of the success is because of him. All right, let's flip it around and let's talk about the Cold Bowl. And again, we've been doing this show long enough that some people would be like, what are you doing a Cold Bowl for? This was a 36-10 drubbing. Like that, you can't do that, right? We always try to remain balanced. We always try to give a hot bowl of porridge out, even if the Bears don't do well. So on the opposite, which we're not that familiar with, we haven't had a lot of these, but this is a positive Bears result, very positive, but we still have, some nits to pick. So what'd you come up with?
This is a tough one this week. Like we talked about, it's like I'm going through the game and I'm like, well, that's ticky tack. I'm not going to dig a guy for that. There was a penalty from Matt Pryor, right? He has a flinch. He goes off sides. And I'm like, okay, I'll note that, right? And I'm watching the game. Then I get to the end, and there's big Matt Pryor throwing a punch. So I'm giving my Cold Bowl to Matt Pryor. Why are you throwing a punch? You're up by 30 points. You don't got to throw a punch there. Plus, they're wearing helmets. There's no point in that. And look, I don't want to see you get any suspension at all because that means Nate Davis is back in the game. Stay where you are. Don't throw punches, and let's keep playing some football.
We have probably talked about this before, and my playing days are ancient history, as are yours. But several times in my playing days, I would attract punches to the helmet. And every time I would just look at the guy and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I can't feel that. I have a helmet on. I have a face mask. Why are you punching me?
Why are people punching you? You seem like you're so mild. Were you an ass when you're playing O-line?
I mean, I think it was just that I was winning. I think that's the honest, like at some point you get frustrated, you look at the scoreboard and you're kind of getting your butt kicked the whole game. And I was an okay high school player, right? So I had my games where I did quite well, right? And then my very short time in college, that happened a few times too. Anyway, we're not talking about me. We're talking about the Bears. Cold bowl of porridge. Anyway, don't punch somebody with a helmet on. That's just dumb. Pointless. Like you young players that are out there, don't throw a punch. Like it's dumb. You're only going to break your hand. You're only going to hurt your hand. It doesn't make any sense. Don't do it. It's a good one for me. I wrote down the 4th and 1 play call. I thought it was a little too cute, and we talked about that. Like if you're gonna come out and you're going to act big, play big. If you're going to act cute, if you're going to come out cute, play cute. That was a little bit too cute for me. They had like what do you call that? An offset eye with Roshan, and they kind of had some motion and then handed it to the offset eye back, and it just got stuffed. There's less space there, right? It's kind of like a fullback dive, but it's just offset, right? But there's just less space there. There's not a lot of time for him to react. He just sort of runs in. Like that play can go wrong a lot. I don't like that on 4th and 1. Or I don't like that on 3rd and 1 or any in 1 to me because it's very uncreative. Everything has to kind of be perfect, and you're not giving your guy any out. And so I thought that was just a little bit too cute for me. So again, this is nitpicking, right? But that was a kind of I'm so glad they went for it. And all of that. I didn't like the play choice. But I think my Cold Bowl is actually going to go to the coverage units. And I've kind of teased this a little bit. Offense, great. Defense, great. Special teams, which has been pretty good so far this year, not so great. Taylor had one good punt. a second punt. And again, because of the coverage unit, there was a missed tackle, which turns into a decent return, which turns that punt into a negative punt. His other punt graded out negative. So overall on the day, he was a below average punt. Now, could have been part of the wind. I get that, but still, those coverage units are important. You had that opportunity to make that tackle, and then that kick return, I thought was pretty rough. That was a big play for them. Got them into a position to kick a field goal. Obviously, Pinheiro missed it, and then Cairo missed an extra point. Yes, the wind may have played some factor in this, but the coverage units overall, I think, were not up to the excellence that the offense and the defense were. So the coverage units for me get the Cold Bowl.
That's just because you're trying to stick up for your Iowa guy.
No, no, no. Hey, man,
Okay.
like he didn't. I said he didn't have a good game
Okay,
either,
okay.
but
It
it's
was.
it's a coverage grade.
There were at least 2 punts that, because he only had 1 inside the 20. There were 2
Mhm.
others that he would have had the Bears made the tackle there. So yeah, I mean that's a good call there. They I'm sure when they get in the film room that they're going to be talked about that, breaking down, making the play, and they kind of threw the body in there at him to make a tackle instead of wrapping up. So that's a good one. Coverage unit's a good one.
I tried. I had to get something. I don't know about anything else before we get out of here. I did want to mention
We got the just
that
right still. You're a little
oh,
ahead of it. Man.
I am.
That's
I'm sorry.
because the whole game was just right.
I jumped.
Everything was good. So it's hard. It's easy to
I jumped.
forget that one.
Yep, just right. I've done that a few times.
That's okay.
Yep, just right. Go ahead.
I'm going to go safety Kevin Byard. We've talked about his nice interception. That was a great play. I mean, he tracked that ball. You couldn't really tell until you saw the replay how he made that play. He kind of laid out, really good, hands catch there. But overall, he has been a very good player for this unit. And I'm an Eddie Jackson fan. I like what he brought to the Bears during his time in Chicago, but Kevin Byard is the right guy at the right time for this defense. He's really smart. He was up near the line of scrimmage a lot in this game, making plays. He had 1 tackle for loss, 6 tackles. He's a physical player, not quite as physical as Brisker, who damn near killed a guy. That was a brutal hit. I mean, that was clean. He got him with the shoulder, but man, that was a rough hit there. That was like 20 years ago. That's 30 years ago. That's a highlight worthy on every commercial. But these days it's like, oh man, what are you trying to do there? You're trying to kill someone. So, but yeah, with Bayard though, excellent acquisition, fitting in beautifully for this team.
I say Byard. Is it
Bayard?
Byard?
Kevin Byard? Byard? I don't know.
I've been calling him Byard. So
these names always flummox me. So.
I'm not calling you out. I want to know. I want to make sure because I'm definitely using a different. I said earlier in the show I call him Byard, so we need to make sure we're getting that pronunciation right. I was saying Darrell Taylor, but it's a Darrell Taylor, right? Like I mean, there's you got to learn these guys, especially these new guys in the first year. There's times where we mispronounce their names, so just trying to figure that out. All right, for me, sorry, I got so excited about making my Cold Bowl point because it's so hard in a dominating victory. I had DJ 5 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 explosive plays. You might say, well, that's worthy of a hot bowl of porridge, but maybe. But for me, like I expect him to be a number 1. I expect him to have games like this. These are the kinds of games that you see from number 1 wide receivers across the league, particularly against the bad defense. He's going against his old team. This is the kind of game that I expected from him. And he has 4 explosive plays on the year, and 3 of them came in this last game. Like this was a huge game for him to kind of bounce back with. He did it. I thought he looked great. We already talked about the body language stuff, that maybe we don't need to get into as Bears fans, as body language experts. But I thought that he played the way that I think a number 1 wide receiver should, and that's what I think he is.
I mean, his route tree was great. I mean, they kind of showed that the next gen stats, how they used him, but a lot of it is game situations, right? That's just how you're using a game. And yeah, I thought he had a great game. I actually went back and checked his numbers because, like I said, this last week people were like trying to run with ridiculous stuff, right? Like there was a trade DJ thing going out there by one of the national guys. Oh, they should trade DJ Moore to a team that will use him better. I'm like, what?
Oh my God.
No one's trading DJ Moore.
They just extended him. Where did these guys get
stupid?
These...
They're just engagement farming, looking for clicks. but he was on pace he had more targets than he did a year ago at the same time. He is on pace for his second most targets in his career. He's not unhappy. He's getting
It
used fine.
it's just needs time to
Yeah.
click. I mean,
Yep.
it was close. That seemed very. If you're actually watching the tape, you're actually watching the games. It seems kind of obvious.
Yeah.
I just don't think a lot of these guys are actually watching anything,
And we,
particularly these
we
national
talked
guys.
about it last week. They're just kind of cashing checks and
Yeah, I
looking
mean,
at
it's
stats.
hard. It is hard. Like that is a hard job to be an NFL guy that you're supposed to watch everything. And then you take like the next step and the people that are supposed to be watching everything and you listen to I don't understand the people that are listening to us probably aren't actually listening to the national level guys much because they've figured out that if they want to hear actual about their team, they kind of need to go into it, more of the niche groups. But I every time I come across like I don't want to pick on him necessarily, but like a Colin Cowherd or someone like that, and you're like, yeah, I mean, you have no clue what you're talking about.
None.
But I don't think you actually watched the game, or you certainly didn't go back and watch the tape. So of course you're not on track here. Of course you're not accurate. Okay, now I'm gonna close it and I'm gonna say the only thing I wanted to add was that I hope they gave the game ball to Ryan Poles because the big trade with the Panthers, all of the stuff that at the time, right? Like there was a little bit of controversy there, and then everything that's happened since, and just the masterfulness of what that has set up. That was really on display, I think, in this game. And so I think to me, it's not a bowl of porridge. I'm just hoping that he got a game ball for this because this was a big victory.
Yeah, I mean this basically set the franchise up, right? That trade. I mean that set both franchises down a path, right? And we talked about it. Like, where's Carolina doing? Like, what are they doing as a franchise? We know what the Bears are. We know where the Bears are headed. But you look at the Panthers, and then taking the wrong guy sucks. And as Bears fans, we saw that. We saw it with Mitch, right? They took the wrong guy and then set the franchise back. They clearly took the wrong guy in Bryce Young and it set the franchise back. I still would rather see him play than Dalton if I was a Panther fan.
100%.
I can't understand why they're even wasting time with Andy Dalton, he's fine. He is a fine backup quarterback in the NFL, but
You're not going anywhere.
you're
You're not doing anything this year. So see if this guy is something.
Yeah.
And if he is, and you can see some growth, then fine. If you can show enough to trade him and start over or whatever. But like, why are you trying to squeeze more wins out of a bad football team
Pointless.
when you need to maybe use that draft pick to go in and get another quarterback? Like what are you doing?
And it's the first year of a regime too. It's the first year head coach there. He doesn't have to win now. He's clearly got some time here. So I don't understand. Just a really
I wrote the article. I hate the Carolina Panthers, and it got that was a fun article, and Panthers fans got very upset, particularly about me calling out their barbecue. And it wasn't their barbecue; it was that they put coleslaw on their barbecue, and I don't understand that. But I it was all for fun.
Yeah.
And then I kind of wrote like, hey, I'm over it. Like I said, I would be. It wasn't really real, but like whatever. And now I just feel bad. Right? Like I'm almost at the point where I need to write an article. Like I feel bad for Carolina Panther fans. I don't feel bad for the Panthers, they're professional athletes. I don't feel bad for David Tepper, their owner, because he seems like a maniac. So I don't feel bad for that, but I do feel bad for their fans because I honestly had some good interactions with a lot of them, and they seem like good people. So I feel bad for them, but I do not feel bad for that. I do not feel bad for that owner though. He seems like an idiot, and he probably pushed him down this path, and he probably told him to bench Bryce Young, right? Like this guy's just a maniac. So but the Bears benefit. The Bears still get. There's one more pick coming from that trade. Bears still have their second rounder coming up in the next year's draft. If that turns out to be pick 33, why not? Let's do it. All right. Well, we'll stick around for just a couple minutes with the YouTube crowd. If you ever want to join us, please do so. Mondays, 6:00. We'll be back next week to recap the London game. Make sure you're checking out other Second City Gridiron podcasts throughout the week. I think it's going to be a fun week. I think people are going to be in a good mood. I think they're going to be excited and fired up about what happened. So make sure you're checking in and checking all those out. And until next time, bear down.
Yeah, Bill has a good guest lined up. I know he likes keeping those things in the wraps, but we know who it is, and it should be a fun show for Bills Bears banter.
Well, I see one that's highlighted in yellow. So let's start off with Andrew, our guy. Have either of you noticed any growth in Shane Waldron's play calling over the first 5 games, or would you say the improvement is more a result of facing easier opponents? Cheers and bear down. I think that it's more to me anyway. I think it's figuring out what personnel groups work. It's figuring out what plays work with those. Like I do think that we've said the phrase "time on task," and I think that's really what it comes down to. And I think it happens with any new coordinator with a new group of guys, right? And I think he came in with some preconceived notions of what this roster could do or wouldn't be able to do. He had to go out and get Gerald Everett to add something additional to this tight end room. He needed Swift, right? And then he didn't really seem like he knew how to use those guys, within the mix. And then maybe he's new to understanding what a Cole Kmet can do. Well, now you see Cole Kmet trying to get worked in here. I still don't think he understands what Khalil Herbert is, which is unfortunate for me, number one Khalil Herbert fan. But I think he's just trying to figure that out. I think with the offensive line coming together and growing and starting, I think that happens. But yeah, they had a tough first. Like Titans have a pretty good defensive front. The Texans are just seem like a just kind of a killer D right now.
Yeah.
Like they're just kind of maniacs. I'm glad they don't have the Vikings early because I think Flores would have just really given them a lot of trouble. But yeah, there's a little bit of like the defenses aren't as good the last couple games. So some of that stuff, like some of that easy stuff is coming, right? Like you can get some of those easier plays and stay on schedule, which helps you as a play caller get into a rhythm, as opposed to be like, well, that didn't work. Well, that didn't work, right? And so I think it's probably probably 5 different things that are happening here. But I think that it's going in the right direction. You can only play who's on your schedule. And so I'm not ready to name him coordinator of the year, but I do think that we can fall back on our original position, which was this is probably the best you were going to do,
Mhm.
given the circumstance. Give it time, see what happens.
First off, Andrew, appreciate the question. I like Shane Waldron. I think he's been doing a pretty good job here. I know a lot of fans are down on him. The screen game was kind of all over the place, but look at these last 2 weeks. The timing of the screen game has gotten better. And going back to time on task, you got to play real games, right? It's hard to replicate the timing of these things in half speed practices. Even when you're going 11-11, it's still hard to replicate that timing. So, there was some times where we saw DeAndre Swift, the ball was just thrown a little too hot for him to catch, right? On some of these short, quick screens. This last 2 weeks, the pass is on the money. He's anticipating it better. I'm sure he wasn't anticipating it to come that quick to him. Nice play. Cole Kmet had a nice tight end screen. Gerald Everett had successful tight end screen. Roma Dunze had a nice bubble screen. DJ Moore had a nice bubble screen. So the timing of these screens are better. Look, the screen's not going anywhere. It has to be executed. Going back to the goal line or to the 4th-and-1 play. I wasn't a fan of the call, the design of it, but when you go back and watch it, it was there. I mean, Roshan kind of did not make the right cut. I think he kind of didn't lower himself enough. It was blocked pretty good. It just wasn't executed very good. So it goes back to this thing is that when the play doesn't work as fans, Shane Waldron sucks. When the play works, it's, those players did a great job. Well, you know what? Those guys go hand in hand, right? So Shane Waldron is the guy the Bears hired. In January, we were mostly giddy. Oh my God, they got an actual real NFL play caller. And like JB said, I think he's learning his way. He's learning his offense. He's learning what he can do, what he can't do. And I think the best is yet to come.
Yeah, a couple of notes. Chris saying Brisker isn't making the trip to London. I am seeing that right now from Schefter. Says Brisker and Pickens and Terrell Smith are not traveling with their team tonight to London. Now, I will say that doesn't say that he won't go. right? He's not traveling with the team though because he's in concussion protocol. So
Oh,
I would assume that he probably would need to pass through the first. I think there's multiple stages, but I think they probably have to get that first sign off before they would allow him on a plane. And I think that might be what happens. So I don't know that he's ruled out for the game necessarily. So he may just have to come over later, or yeah, maybe he's just sticking around. He's going to miss the game and not be here. So, that's the other side of those safeties, right? You take a hit to the head. I mean that it is what it is. Like if you got to protect yourself too here, Brisker. So hopefully
did that
he's
news
okay.
just break? Did that just come out there?
25-30 minutes
Oh
ago, it looks
man,
like from Adam Schefter. So and
good
then
job,
we've
Chris.
got go ahead.
Saying good job, Chris, throwing it in the chat
Yeah,
there.
Chris, breaking news. Got
I saw this one. Yeah,
uh, I don't know how to say this name. Akusai
Akisai
says
24. Yeah,
says Cole Bull to Vilma for saying that there isn't a winner in the trade. I mean,
Vilma was
woof,
bad, right?
woof, man. Like, I mean, just don't even talk about it.
Yeah.
If that's like this whole like, oh, he could still become a good player, and like come on, like no, you can declare victory at this point. I saw somebody kind of respond to that on Twitter yesterday. Like, that's true. You probably shouldn't be able to say anything yet because there's still one more pick coming,
Yeah.
and so we don't know just total how lopsided this thing is. But I, I'm always someone that says trade happens because both parties can win, and I think so many people are like, oh, this team won that trade. Like a lot of times both teams win, and it could be they're looking for draft capital, they're looking for salary cap relief, they're looking for redistribute defensive talent to then the offensive side of the ball, which we've seen the Bears do. Like there's a lot of reasons for a trade, and a lot of times both teams can win. Maybe one team benefits a little bit more, or like they get like a player that works out a little bit better than the other, but like both teams can get positive off of trade. This trade is only positive for the Bears. Like everything that because it's draft capital that seems to be working out. DJ Moore looks awesome. The pick turned into Caleb Williams. Like, I mean, this has just been like stack. And then what they acquired looks like a smoldering hole. Like it is like terrible. This sets you back multiple years. This is going to be hard for them to recover from, right? So this one is like, woof, it's going in opposite directions.
If you talk about the scales of balance here, there is no
Woof.
way that this weighs any way towards them. So I don't know what Vilma was talking about. He just a lot of weird stuff. And from what I don't watch. I must not pay attention to much stuff when he's on. I do a lot of red zone stuff when the Bears aren't playing, so I don't really watch full on games. But yeah, I guess Vilma has a rep for being pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, and there's one of those guys that probably doesn't watch Bears games. Like he probably doesn't watch a lot of games. Maybe he watched something to try to get ready.
Yeah,
Maybe he's not really like that. I mean, like some of these guys, like they play. I don't want to take anything away from them. Good NFL player, right? Like I
yeah,
mean, like I'm not trying to say that, but just because a guy played in the league doesn't mean that he follows the league like some of you that are in the chat, like some of us that create content. This is our passion. This is our hobby. We spend a lot of time on this. And just because a guy played in the league, I mean, I got a buddy who played college ball, doesn't care about football one bit.
yeah.
And he's much better than I ever was, right? A big guy, like, very successful, but like doesn't like football. Like he doesn't like watch it or follow it. He wouldn't know. He couldn't name three players. Any team, name three players. He'd be like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like some guys are like that. I'm not saying that's Vilma's, but like to assume that because these guys played in the league or even played in the league for a long time, that they follow it, that they know all these things. No, it just doesn't. It just doesn't. Ken wants to know who starts. I mean, it's got to be Owens, right?
Yeah, Jonathan Owens probably gets the nod there, which look, again, kudos to Ryan Poles for going out and getting a viable backup safety because I was not a big fan of Elijah Hicks' experience. He's a fine special teamer, but I don't want to play in much back there as far as roaming the secondary. So Owens, several starts in the league. he'll be your guy back there. And he doesn't have very good hands, but that's okay. He's a safety. He's there to
Oh
hit.
man, I really wanted that last one. It would have been so great to
Yeah.
to pick off Bryce Young and just to add another turnover would have been great. I didn't even mention this, so this was funny. That's why I
Yeah.
put it up on the screen. Caleb has the pocket.
It makes you
pocket
think,
aware.
right? Like when I read it first, I'm like, I
IRS
don't get it.
auditor.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I hear the like pocket watching a lot. Like that's not a phrase that I have, am particularly familiar with, but I
Yeah.
see that enough like on Twitter and stuff. Oh, don't pocket watch. And I'm like, pocket watch, like an old railroad guy. No, no, no. Like you're trying to like make an assumption on how other people are spending their money. Right. And then Ken wants to know that his name is pronounced Ken.
That's good. That's one I can get. Although I have Kieran Amangaji down pat now because I had to do that. I had to do that draft day, so I had to make sure I learned how to pronounce it properly.
What does this mean? The Cookie Monster is in the Tuesday Spongy special.
There's probably a Cookie Monster song that he put on that lead video that he does every day in the den.
Okay.
I'm interested to see what that one is.
All right.
Is there a song?
Well,
is there a Cookie Monster song I'm not aware of?
It must be. There must be. I don't know it. I wasn't a Sesame Street kid, so I don't know these. No.
I grew up on it, yeah, but it's a long time ago.
Yeah, I no kids, so I don't have that. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there. And thanks everybody for joining us. I think I had fun. I was kind of fired up. I gotta be honest with you. I was a little fired up tonight.
It's always more exciting and it's more fun to sit here and talk about a win,
It really is, and I think that more than anything, I just there are a few Bears fans that, like you talked about, that are still that it's Victory Monday, man. I mean, I don't even care if it was one of those like scrape by. At least have, hey man, they won, right? Like at least have that. There's like, oh, it's the Panthers. Who cares? Like, do it against a real team. It's like this was what was on the schedule, and they just demolished a professional football team. Like this is something to just feel good about. You can feel it's okay to be excited about this football team. It is okay to feel good about this victory. Your favorite football team just destroyed a team that they had a big trade for with last year. It helps you in multiple ways. Like just be happy. Like it's okay to occasionally be happy about this thing that you do in your free time that should bring you at least some level of joy.
Yeah. And as Bears fans, we have not had a lot of joy. It's been a while. So
take it when you get
it. Take the win when you can.
All right. We're going to get out of here. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate the time. We'll see you next week.